What's good, yo? I am Slime Green Beats, and this is a snare mixing tutorial in FL Studio 21. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys like some snare mixing tips, basically how to like maximize your snare sound in FL Studio 21. So yeah, this also works in FL Studio 20. I love, to be honest with you guys, I barely know the difference between FL 20 and 21. I've hardly noticed like a difference, but I love FL for updating it. Like, keep updating FL, but yeah. Anyways, so snare. If you're unaware what a snare sounds like, that's what it sounds like. So this snare is kind of like grungy as heck, but whatever. We'll put it here. What I want to do is let's just put like a snare here, and a snare here. Maybe like a snare here, just so we can hear the sound. Go ahead, play that pattern. And also, I kind of want to put the hi-hats. And I did this in another video about sidechaining, where I kind of like had these two here. And I want these two to be here because they're kind of like in the same frequency of sound, like the higher end. And you'll see what I'm talking about here. So like, the first thing you want to do though is make sure your snare and hi-hat in this situation are in the mixer. So my snare is in channel 5. Another thing that you want to do is before you really go into the mixer, and this is a healthy tip for every sound that you have, just turn the volume down a little bit. So this is at 65%. Like, I kind of have my default template, I already like turned it down, so I don't have to like always do that. But yeah, you know, how much you turn it down depends on how like loud it is already. But yeah, turn it down before it goes into the mixer. Might even put it lower than that. So let's see. Same thing with the hi-hat. I would turn the hi-hat down too. The hi-hat already is down. Okay, so snare mixing tips. Where's the snare? Okay, here we go. All right, so first thing is make sure you invest in panorama, and I'm gonna show like a actual beat example after this, so you kind of like see what I'm really talking about, like on like a real beat. But basically, like, yeah, make sure you're engaging with the panorama, and this is the panorama. It's like the stereo separation, and this is best done with on speakers, right? Like monitor speakers preferably, but you know, make sure you're separating this from other sounds. And you know, like I said, it would make more sense if I had other sounds here, but like say for instance, this is here at 14. You don't want this to be at 14 too. You want to separate every sound, so every sound kind of has its own pocket of space, and that's a lot of what mixing is. So that's the first thing, like separate the sound. Where exactly on this spectrum, honestly, I don't know. And I say I don't know because typically you would want to merge it, which would be going to the right. But honestly, like I said, I've heard songs that have millions of views that put the snare like wherever. So so yeah, like as long as it's separated, I would say that's like the rule of thumb. Like make sure that it is not that you are panning the snare, right? Okay, and I'd say the other biggest thing with the snare is modifying the attack and release. So, and mostly the release. I'd say the release is like the biggest thing to do with the snare. So the transient processor is a good application for that. Now, I'm not sure if that comes with the producer edition. I think I had to purchase this separately. I honestly don't remember. That was like 2-3 years ago. But like, yeah, transient processor is great for editing the release. And what the release does, it kind of makes the sound like bigger. And typically with snares, you kind of want the snare to kind of like sound like it has some impact, some what's the word for it, like space to it, some size. So what you will do is just turn the release up. So whatever that comfortable level is. And again, this is probably easier to understand and hear if you have speakers, but yeah, definitely turn the release up. You can change the shapes here, and for this, like really for all of these, I always just say like just play with these knobs and figure out what you like, because I hate like music doesn't have to be perfect, and it really doesn't have to be a standard. Like there's fundamental stuff like this, like changing the release at all. But how much and why really depends on the sound, or like what type of music you make etc. Like you might not have it as high if you already have like reverb on it or something. And reverb's something else you can add. This is the Fruity Convolver. So Fruity Convolver, again, all these are here. Fruity Convolver is a good tool for like simple reverb. There's other reverb tools as well. So the release, again, the attack. So what the attack, like if your snare you feel like is hitting too hard, or it's almost like hurts the ears or something like that, or sticks out too much, try messing with the attack. Try messing with the shape here. There's some presets here too, which are cool. So like I could go to say soft attack. Okay, so this is how they would do a soft attack. And I use this tool a lot. I go to soft attack a lot, but I mean, at the end of the day, all you're doing is changing the shape to this like rounded shape, slow, turning down the attack. So it's not as sharp really. So let's just see. It sounds like without it. See, it's like a little bit, like it's more, the attack is similar to like the, dang, I forgot the word for it. The attack is similar to the, man, I can't believe the velocity, yeah. The attack is similar to the velocity. So it's like the impact, the sound. So like, play with the attack. I feel like I mess with the attack a lot if I feel like something is hitting just way too hard. I feel like the attack is like my #1 thing that I go at. And if something is too soft or I wish it would like resonate more than the release. But turning up the release, I'd say, is pretty classic thing to do with snares. And then the other thing I would show, I don't know if this is the last thing, but the compressor. So the Fruity compressor, the reason you turn down the volume is to compress it. So when you compress it, it's not like clipping. So the volume's already down, because when you compress it, it'll get louder. At least it should get louder. So a preset I like to use is, and this is just the basic Fruity compressor, I like to just use the drums preset here. And I feel like this works, especially on kicks, but on snares as well. So this will definitely give you some sound. So like, you could turn this so far down and still get like a really strong snare. Just by tweaking the release, maybe adding reverb. So you want to leave room so it still doesn't clip. And by clipping, I mean like when it goes over 0 dB here, right? And it'll show it like, if you highlight it here, like say for instance, it's highlighted here, like how I'm like selecting this, it'll show the decibel like limit, I guess, for the sound. And see, it's still like way below, but hey, look, if I reset this and then had these effects on here, if I reset this, now you see it's like kind of creeping up there, and it's kind of entering the clip zone and just like the loud zone. So I'm gonna turn it down, back down. I like where it was, and that's cool. And keep in mind, you might also compress it in the master channel, so like you want to leave room for that as well. So, and that's called gain staging, when you just like turn the volume down and leave room for stuff. That's like how I would define gain staging. So we have the reverb. We talked about the reverb, talked about the attack and release. And remember, like the release, I feel like if you get nothing out of this video, the release will turn your snare swag up, basically. Like people think you're cold if you play with the release. And then just, make sure it's just not too loud in general. Like there's a lot of different ways to turn down the volume. Like I said, you can turn down the attack. It's kind of like turning down the volume, but the attack is more like the velocity, like the pressure on it. So I like to use the attack. I think that's smarter than turning down the volume. But turning down the volume will give you a similar effect. And turning up the volume will give you a similar effect to turning up the release. But anyways, I think those are the proper ways to go about it, which is using the release and the attack. And the last, we have the EQ2. Now, equalizing is something else, baby. Let's see what this looks like. And this is where we brought in the hi-hats, right? Because if we have the EQ2, you see how this is hitting here. Let's see where the hi-hats are hitting, right? See where the hats are hitting. See how they're kind of like taking in the same area? So that's one thing you want to be like cautious of. Sometimes I kind of like, I don't want that area to be so like just muddy, I guess. I don't know. There's a lot of different words to say, like when the sounds just overlap too much, frequencies overlap too much. I would be mindful of that. But with the snare, you definitely want to cut out the bass, right? So if you have a bass, the snare can really like, you see how much frequency is in the bass, but this is not a bass sound. It's just kind of like, that's the frequency, and it's just kind of like almost like flooding over into the bass. So what I'll do is, and you want to use your ears for this, right? Kind of cut that bass off a little bit. Leave room for the bass. So now the bass has more room. Now the bass doesn't have as many competing frequencies, and you can hear the bass a little bit easier if you have a bass or a kick, you know. So that's something I like to do. And sometimes you can double it too. Like, see how it's still bleeding over here? I will add another one. And note the order that I have this in. You kind of want to EQ last. You want to EQ last, but because it goes like in this order. Like, it goes like the processing, it goes like top to bottom. So this is like the last thing that like the sound goes through, if you wiltst Jacksons. And hashtag, let's see what it looks like now. See, it's still kind of like, this one's actually above this one, so like, it's weird. You see how it's like less there? It's kind of weird how that does it, actually. So what I'll do is I'll kind of just do the same exact thing, and now you'll be like, okay, there should be even less like bass going on by the time it gets here. See, the first EQ is kind of taking a stab at it, but there's still some left over, and then the second EQ is like totally gone. So that's why you got a double EQ. Now, you know, this depends on how technical you want to be or how serious you want to take your beats. Like, sometimes, you know, this, you know, it depends what you want to do. Depends what you want to do. But I would, if you're still having some bleed, some rollover here, if you wiltst, I would hashtag recommends freaking double EQing there. So that's pretty much that for this tutorial. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to mention about snares. Oh yeah, so like if you have a snare and a hi-hat, and say your hi-hat is kind of hitting at the same time as the snare, what you can do is put on the limiter. So put the limiter on the hi-hat, right? You're going to want to sidechain. So I'll start completely over. So bang, I have the limiter up already, but you know where to find the limiter. So right click here, sidechain to this track. This is like sidechaining, and this is too confusing. Like, don't worry about it. I thought this was really confusing the first time I did it. But basically, like, you're going to want to sidechain. So you remember how they're both kind of hitting in the same area. So when you sidechain, you can kind of like choose a sound to duck when the other hits. So I want the snare to kind of be like the leader. I don't want the hi-hat to be the leader. Now, if you want the hi-hat to be the leader, that's your own thing. But I want the snare to be the leader here. So go to comp, go to sidechain, right click here, click snare. I like to name it so I know that it's the right channel. So this is sidechaining to that. And basically, you're going to play with the threshold and the ratio here. Play with these two knobs until like you start to see some resistance here. You see how now it's kind of like eating through it. Now it's like, instead of like you can kind of hear like the snare is kind of hitting through. I might even turn threshold down even more. Turn the ratio all the way up. This is basically like, there shouldn't be much hi-hat at all. Interesting. Can you guys hear that outside? You know, I thought it would have pierced through more than this, to be honest. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. Huh. Yeah, I do this though. Okay, it is eating at it. Okay. Alright, okay. I was like tripping for a second. I was like, you can definitely hear the difference. Like, you can hear like this when the snare hits, it's hitting through. I'm gonna show you guys a beat real quick that like I did this with. Okay, so like this is borderline like an album preview. I have a new album. It's Beautiful coming out, and it should be out soon. Might be out depending on when you're watching this video. Might be out 3 years ago depending on when you're watching this video. Anyways, yeah. So you'll see I have like a hi-hat snare exchange here. You'll kind of see how I did it. like show the snare and the hi-hats, so I'm not gonna talk too much. See how I pan these? I don't think I EQ this, did I? Oh, yeah. See? I didn't EQ, I got lazy. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, when you're EQing, use your ears. Don't just use your eyes. I say use your ears, but kind of use your eyes as like a visual cue. And I always say like, FL is amazing. I mean, modern music production is amazing. This is like such a complicated thing that's even happening. You almost just take it for granted. But like, yeah. Like to be able to visually see it like that. You see, now I kind of took that bass, that low part out so you can hear the bass a little bit easier when that comes in. So that was a tweak that I just needed to make. But you see how it's also separated here. I know I said it wouldn't talk the whole time, but you see how it's separated here. Got these sounds kind of like hitting in different areas. That's key. Separation. I try to separate like evenly, almost do like math, like depending on how many sounds I have is how much I separate it. But like I said, listen to just popular songs and see how they separate, and you know, you might get some ideas from that, because I'm still doing that to today. So oh yeah, see how they're both hitting at the same time? See how I sidechained it? Alright, let's do that one more time so you can kind of see that. I forgot to mention this freaking book, bro. Crap. I love how they work together there. It just has it causes for a smooth sound. I could probably try a convolver on this. What does it sound like? Honestly, that might sound better with the convolver. You'll be listening to this song on the album and then be like, dang, I edited like some key parts mid-video. But it'd be like that. It really be like that. So yeah, guys, I hope you got some snare tips from this vid. I'm sure, like, you know, there's a lot of things to learn in music production and whatnot and mixing, and I got some more mixing tutorials on the way. I am not done with slime forever. Music forever. I'll spend the next minute saying some inspirational stuff. So, oh yeah, first, guys, cop the book, How to Make Beats by Slime Green Beats. Especially if you're a beginner, definitely cop this. I think anybody should cop this because I throw in some like next level internet marketing tips in this thing. So like that's like a hidden gem in this book, because I wrote this before I started working corporate internet marketing. So like I was on to something when I wrote it. I was on to something when I wrote that stuff. But like that was before I really like got a corporate, because I do work I do have a 9-to-5. I do internet marketing for a corporation, and yeah, like I started Slime like when I was in my parents' basement. Like you can watch some of my earlier videos. I was in my parents' basement. So like basically, yeah, like stay on the grind. Music is, I always say, like, just as advice, pursuing music for money it might leave you strained, or pursuing music to be big might leave you strained. Like music is just a gift. It's just something that we have to do almost as like a chore almost. Like that's why I do it. I do it to like just spread good vibes, chill vibes, etc. But yeah, definitely keep it going, guys. Don't get discouraged. Let me wrap this video up. And make sure you guys subscribe. More heat on the way. I want this to be less than 20 minutes. Shout out to Retro Lodge. Shout out to everyone subscribe to Retro Lodge's channel. Tell them to keep making videos. And tell me to, let me know what type of video you guys want next. It's probably going to be a melody video. But yeah, guys, thank you guys for watching as always. Stay tuned. Peace out.